Why did Miquella appear with 4 arms after ascending to godhood? And why exactly does he have insect-like wings in the intro? Today I'm going to try to answer these questions and present some ideas that will help you to draw your own conclusions. Welcome to Purge Evil. Thank you for stopping by. Let's get into it. So first, why exactly does Miquella have 4 arms after returning from the Divine Gate? To answer this, maybe we can take a look at other beings with multiple sets of arms that exist in the world of Elden Ring. There are several parallels between Miquella and Ranni's characters, and their avatars having 4 arms is just one of them. But if there's anything to learn about Ranni having 4 arms, maybe it can carry over to Miquella as well, for the reason of them being blood related. Ranni having 4 arms may simply be attributed to her just being in a doll's body and that just being its design, but I think there could be more to it, especially considering that her and Miquella are half siblings, and Miquella has now been depicted with 4 arms himself. We know that both of them had 2 normal arms to begin with, as depicted in artwork, trailers, and the Remembrance cutscene for Miquella, and we can physically observe that Ranni's original corpse only had 2 arms as well, so it may be safe to assume that if Ranni, instead of doing the whole Black Knife plot, were to go about godhood in a similar fashion as Miquella did, she may have ended up with 4 arms as well. Another simple answer may just be that the extra set of arms is just a byproduct of becoming a god or obtaining a considerable amount of power, which is a big thing in Hinduism. It could also just be a conscious decision by Miquella himself to appear with 4 arms, maybe to ensure he had a quote-unquote hold over the newly reborn Radahn. Back to Ranni and how having 4 arms is significant in Miquella's case, we know that the doll she inhabits is modeled after the Snow Witch Renna, who was her secret mentor a long time ago. If, in the case, the 4 arms of the doll isn't just a design choice and is actually replicating the Snow Witch herself, then maybe we can find some answers with her. Renna was well versed in cold magic, which aside from being an ancient weapon used to fight the fire giants by the Zamor, I believe is tied to the Dark Moon, which is a sentient being similar to an outer god, and it is widely speculated the Snow Witch was related to the Revenants and Wraithcallers, or may have been one herself. Revenants are another creature that have multiple sets of arms that some believe to be grafted, but I think they're actually their own thing. The reason being that they all have these same exact limbs, rather than the look of them actually being grafted on. They also have a boss type enemy with the name of Royal Revenant, who is located in a dungeon with the title of King's Realm Ruins. The names Royal and King's Realm, along with many of the Revenants appearing throughout Liurnia, leads me to believe they may be tied to the Carians at the very least, which means the Wraithcallers that hang around the Revenants may be tied to the Carians as well, considering the 2 creatures are extremely close in nature and location. This leads to the interesting thought that Renna the Snow Witch was actually a type of Revenant herself, more likely resembling the Wraithcallers, and others have attributed this to the bluish skin of the creatures in the doll, along with the bells they use to summon wraiths, and the bell Ranni gives the tarnish to summon spirits. So it's possible that she may have been part of the Carian family, or part of the Academy at the very least, before she left to live in the woods and eventually came to be known as the Snow Witch. So with all of this, the nature of having more than 2 arms could possibly be linked to the moon, which possesses wisdom and is similar to an outer god, if not just straight up actually being one, and it's possible that Miquella may have come in contact with this being during his ascension. Or more likely, having multiple sets of arms can possibly be directly linked to godhood itself. This could mean that the Revenants and Wraithcallers went through some sort of failed ascension, leading them to be in this cursed type of state seen throughout the game. This is why they are weak to holy damage and are literally the only enemies in the game that take damage from the AoE on our healing spells. There's also the possibility that Miquella may have similar blood to the Snow Witch and by extension the Carians. We know that if Miquella was a build, he would have both intelligence and faith at the very least for fundamentalist incantations, and this would also mean he would be able to use sorceries naturally, further linking the possibilities, albeit I think that one is a little bit of a stretch. If 4 arms is in some way linked to godhood, this could make sense for why Radagon and Marika are only ever seen with 2 arms respectively, that being because they've been split into 2 identities. If they were never split, they might have 4 arms in some ascended or spectral form. If this is the case, it would explain why Miquella has 4 arms but one of them is incomplete. Miquella abandoned his love. He didn't directly split himself in half, and the rest of the arm that's missing from his ascended form could possibly be what was used to create the physical body of Saint Trina. I suppose another explanation for him technically only having 3 arms would be that his ascension to godhood was incomplete, as the Tarnished interrupted it when they began to fight Radahn. Other beings that have 4 arms are the Fly People, which leads us to the second question: why is Miquella depicted with insect traits in the intro? I mean, for 2 years, we literally knew Miquella as the guy inside of a cocoon. Multiple sets of arms in and of itself can be directly related to insects, and Miquella appears to have a set of translucent wings in the intro. This has led to the thought that Miquella may have actually taken on a man-fly form before ascending to godhood. From the man-fly ashes, afflicted Hornsent eventually metamorphosed into a fly-like form. It was believed that the moment the transformation took place, they were relieved from their suffering. So we know the Fly People are related to the Crucible because they are literally just diseased Hornsent, and we know very well that it's possible for the offspring of Marika to have traits of the Crucible. So does this mean that Miquella was not only afflicted with eternal youth, but he also began to develop traits born of the Crucible? And more specifically, was he actually afflicted with the fly disease? This would actually fall in line with the fact of Miquella trying to create his own Erd Tree, and how it actually resembles the same spiral pattern that is seen all throughout the Land of Shadow, in incantations, and as a representation of the Crucible's power. The implication being that by trying to create his own Erd Tree, it is possible for him to have taken on some aspects of the Crucible in the process. To further add to the possibility of Miquella either having taken on the fly form or have been in the process of transforming into it, the ailment talisman reads, "When the weak were infected with the dreaded fly sickness, they perished well before metamorphosis could take hold." Oddly, those who cared for the infected and made certain they were given a proper burial were never afflicted themselves. With this, we may be able to connect a couple of the footprint locations to this theory, reason being that Miquella would have been forced to discard his body, or else he would have inevitably perished before reaching his goal. There are 2 spots where Miquella discards, quote, a part of his flesh, which is an apparent distinction from the other spots where it only reads that he discarded, quote, flesh of his body, not a part of the flesh. The difference in wording could actually be referring to Miquella discarding his wings, being that they are a part of his flesh and not his actual flesh. This theory could possibly explain why he has 4 arms. Technically one's missing, but I really think it is the best argument for why he appears to have insect wings in the intro at the very least. The theory being that Miquella was not only afflicted with eternal youth, but that he was eventually affected by the Crucible as well. Being that Marika's children have the chance of possessing these traits, it wouldn't be far-fetched to assume that Miquella would carry the same latent Omen/Hornsent DNA, which is actually part of a theory that Marika was actually a Hornsent, but that's a topic for another video, or that he acquired the energy from the Crucible by the decisions he made during life, such as creating the Halig Tree, tampering with the primal energy of life and death itself. The incomplete spiral pattern of the Halig Tree, of course, being a representation of this. Another possible catalyst for his insect affliction would be his interference with the body of Godwyn, considering it is the source of the Death Root, and the Death Root brings with it a swarm of insects, and even further, insect wings are literally poking out of the Death Root itself, suggesting that the insects are being born from it. Roger was afflicted with the Death Root after tampering with Godwyn's body in Stormvale, and eventually succumbed to it, so it's possible that Miquella may have been afflicted in some way as well, but with him being an Empyrean, maybe it would have manifested differently than it does with Roger or the Tarnished. Now to summarize, why did Miquella have 4 arms? Maybe it's just a god thing. Marika might have appeared with 4 arms if she hadn't separated her soul into 2 people. Ronnie might have had 4 arms should she have ascended to godhood the same way, and the Wraithcallers and Revenants have 4 arms possibly from being people who cursed themselves through some failed ascension. This could also explain why Miquella technically only has 3 arms, because like Marika, he split into 2 beings, but unlike Marika, the other being exists physically separately. The implication being that if Marika didn't split herself, she might appear with 4 arms as well. We do not know for sure if Marika and Radagon existed separately, but if this theory were true, I think this missing arm could be the flesh that was used to form Saint Trina. Second, why was Miquella depicted with insect traits? This one is a lot harder to try to answer aside from it being retconned artwork, but I think the best theory we have from the information we've gathered is that Miquella actually had taken on some type of fly form before ascending to godhood. I'm not sure if I buy into this one though, but it is something that turns the wheels, especially considering how likely it is for Miquella to have taken on some aspects of the Crucible at some point. It's also possible that it may have been a byproduct of tampering with Godwyn's body, and in turn, the death root. I'm not sure which of these is the truth, or if any of this is the truth, and I'm eager to hear everybody's thoughts and opinions down in the comments. With FromSoft being FromSoft and Shadow of the Erdtree likely being the one and only DLC for Elden Ring, it's likely we will never get any definitive answers on these two topics, but it's always fun to speculate, and even with evidence to suggest one thing or another, it really is left up to you on what the truth really is, and hopefully this video helps you to form your own conclusion on the matter. Make sure to like and subscribe for more lore. Thank you for watching, and until next time, purge evil.